Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is Marvel 2-in-1 presents The Thing and Valkyrie. And this was a great read. I remember actually buying it when it was out on the newsstand, and even 8-year-old me enjoyed this issue. You see the cover, it looks like it was drawn by John Romita. It's action packed. It has one of the two villains here. This is the only thing I didn't like. I wish they had found a way of fitting the Enchantress in this. But we see the Executioner, and he's holding down. He's basically holding down the Thing here, as Valkyrie's about to strike, and she's claiming that this is going to be a death strike. And see the wording is a little interesting here. Swiftly, warrior woman. Even I cannot hold the ugly one any longer. That is something to like. You're not only gonna murk the guy, but you're gonna make sure one of the last things that he hears is that he's ugly. Oh, by the way, the thing also kind of looks at the executioner and judges him by his appearance. So there might be a little bit of homoeroticism here. We're told in the box, featuring the pulse-pounding power of the Executioner. And I'm going to go into this issue. It's also dated January 1974. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to open up, going to take a look at the creative team. Steve Gerber wrote this. This is around the time that he had just taken over the Defenders, and he was working on some ideas. He wrote a terrific story here. This story is so touching, in my opinion. Sal Buscema was the artist. These two collaborated, I think, on Gerber's entire run on the Defenders. Although Gerber did not, although Sal Buscema did not always draw Gerber's Defenders-related comics, I think Herb Trimpe had done an issue, but I'm not sure. Anyway, but nevertheless, these two were a great team. When Gerber left the title, Sal also left the title. Mike Esposito is the inker. Usually the stuff that Mike worked on was pretty good. Bill Mantlo was involved in this. He was the colorist. I had no issues with the coloring. I think the last comic I read, Superman 262, I had real problems with the coloring. And this is edited by Roy Thomas. So anyway, we're in Central Park here, and we see someone who, in 1975, would have been referred to as a bum. We try to use different words now, but in 1974, this guy was a bum. Anyway, he's kind of like in this drunken stupor as he's in the park, and then suddenly we see him startled. And he's startled by the sight of the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie, she's on her flying Pegasus. I think it's Agorn. And she grabs this homeless bum from this park bench. This is a little odd. Usually it kind of works the other way around, where the homeless person is desperately trying to catch on to someone else. But nevertheless, we see the Valkyrie here extremely well drawn. She's grabbing the nameless bum so far, and she's grabbing him by the collar, and we're told that Alvin Denton is carried aloft. And then we see a brief scene of what the Valkyrie does, and basically she issues a warning to Alan Denton that he needs to accept his destiny, or at least his destiny is in her hands. Now, she has this guy pretty high up, and the only thing stopping gravity from splatting this guy is her hold. So yeah, she does have his destiny in her hands, but then she immediately disappears. However, it seems that Alan Denton actually does recognize the voice that had spoken to him, and also the appearance of this super being, and he starts to say the name Barbara, which is, it turns out later, spoilers, that Alan Denton is the father of the body that the Valkyrie is currently inhabiting. Because the Valkyrie is not a true person per se. The Valkyrie, I think, was a concept or thought of concepts. And that concept was something that came from the Enchantress. Obviously, it came from Norse history, but the Valkyrie came from the Enchantress. I guess her wish fulfillment of an alter ego, and then she, in Defenders number 3, she had the opportunity of embodying this persona onto another body, and that was of Barbara Denton. So the Valkyrie personality and the Barbara Denton body were merged into one. Now at this point, Barbara Denton had gone insane because of something Dr. Strange had done, and he should have known better in that issue. But nevertheless, so it's sort of like you have this body that's currently inhabited by someone who has completely lost their mind, and you're fusing it with this kind of concept of a personality. She has all the powers of the Valkyrie and so forth. You guys know this stuff. So anyway, then we turn to Doctor Strange in his Sanctum Sanctorum. I cannot pronounce this word to save my life. He's in Doctor Strange's mansion here in the Greenwich Village area. And we see Doctor Strange is there with a guest, the Thing. The Thing was the muscle in a couple of issues of the Defenders. Because I guess sometimes they wanted to change it up, because since this was a, quote, non-team, you had flexible membership. So I guess they wanted to sell the Defenders. So they said, listen, the Fantastic Four, they're selling a little bit more. We already have Thing in his own comic book for kids who liked the Thing but didn't like the Fantastic Four. Because remember, Fantastic Four was the family comic, and some kids didn't like that. But they still liked the Thing. So Fantastic Four was a big seller for Marvel. They tried to do the same with the Human Torch. It didn't work with him. But nevertheless, we see Doctor Strange and the Thing. And the ongoings of the previous issue of Marvel 2-in-1 are in play here. And there is a wrap-up that's coming up soon. Doctor Strange, he's looking into the crystal of Agamotto. And he sees Barbara Denton, and oh man, this is a weird sight. She's sleeping under a tree on a grassy knoll, no blanket, so she's getting all those grass stains, with her luggage right near her. So that is kind of a weird imagery here. Doctor Strange, I think he has found out her location, because the Aya Agamotto, that has super GPS. And it says that she's in Cobbler's Roost, Vermont. So Doctor Strange is a little odd that Valerie had gotten that far that soon. It really shouldn't be a surprise, but nevertheless, he is surprised by this. The Thing, he weighs in. He kind of knows a little bit about what's going on. There are two things with the Thing. One, he has to pick up most of what he learns through osmosis. And we see it in this story. Because one, he doesn't really know the Defenders, and he doesn't really know the mystic world. So he kind of needs a lot of things to be explained to him. But it actually does work in this story. So anyway, what was going on was apparently there was a magic harmonica. And in the previous issue, where Thing teamed up with Doctor Strange was waiting on a subway platform. Good for him, taking mass transit. Apparently, a young woman was pushed to the tracks, and a harmonica was taken from her. Doctor Strange has a duty. He either stops the mugger, or he saves the girl. Now, for some people actually choose, hey, I have to think of society at large, and I got to stop this mugger. And I'm sorry that was the sacrifice that he had made, but nevertheless, I have to stop him. But Doctor Strange was initially going to go for the victim and save the victim from the oncoming subway train. But the victim here pleaded with Doctor Strange to take possession of the harmonica, to ignore her, and to go after the mugger and get that harmonica. And Doctor Strange looked in her eyes, and she says, "Okay, I'm going to pursue this property crime for you." But when the young woman was hit with by the subway train, she just exploded in a kind of like this huge sparkles. So there was a huge sparkle show there. And the sparkles affected the people who were on the platform while this happened. There was a young man there. There were a couple of kind of bad apples, but they hadn't done anything too bad yet. But they were kind of going along that path. And what had happened is that the sparkles had caused these people to live out their fate. Like if they were going to stay on their current path, this is going to be their destiny. And this does work into the story. And so Doctor Strange and the Thing helped these guys out. So they put them all on the path where they should be. But there was one person who kind of escaped this mystic sparkle storm, and that was Alan Denton. And I think they thought that Denton had the harmonica. So that's why Denton's destiny is running alongside here, and it just happened, and the guy just happened to be, related to Barbara Denton, the woman that the Valkyrie's essence is taking over. That was a lot. Okay, so I'm going to go into this one ad for Cleveland Institute of Electronics. I always enjoyed these ads. Apparently, three guys apparently going on a date. No, not three guys. It's two guys and a woman. And apparently, the guy with the date is doing really well for himself. The other guy's a bum. He can't get a job, can't get a girl. He's just moping around. But his friend says, "Listen, dude, you learn electronics, you become a chick magnet." And it looks like he's dating Gwen Stacy here. So apparently, like correspondence courses to learn electronics. Take a look at an in-house ad of sorts, because it's actually Simon & Schuster who is selling these products, not Marvel directly, but they are Marvel products. The Origins of Marvel Comics by Stan Lee. This actually was sort of I think Stan Lee sort of had mixed feelings about this, because number one, this actually did go to number one on the New York Times bestsellers list. That was a big deal back then. Even going into the 2000s, it was still a big deal to be on the Times bestsellers list. This was number one on the bestsellers list, New York Times bestsellers list. Had Stan Lee's name. He was thrilled about it. The problem was it was comic books. Stan Lee always had issues being in the comic book business. One hand, he knew it made him what he became. But on the other hand, he kind of wanted to do more serious adult work. And, not do kind of something he kind of looked down on a little bit. And then we see the Mighty Marvel calendar for 1975. I would have loved that. Anyway, go back to the story. The Thing is pretty confused here. So he tends to ask a lot of problems. He's not fully aware of what's going on. But nevertheless, he knows Doctor Strange. So he knows this is serious if Doctor Strange says it's serious. Apparently, there was an incident in the mansion earlier before the two guys got there. And Clea, who is Doctor Strange's girlfriend and also kind of like student, she said that the Valkyrie had stopped by the mansion. Clea knows the Valkyrie is always welcomed. And oh no, this is where they got the harmonica. And the Valkyrie came in and took the harmonica. So she didn't grab Alan Denton for the harmonica as I kind of originally thought. But it turns out she had taken the harmonica from Doctor Strange's mansion here, where he had it secured. But nevertheless, that Valkyrie has both of them. And neither the Thing nor Doctor Strange can understand why the Valkyrie is behaving this way. And Doctor Strange, he's sticking up for his teammate. He's giving her the benefit of the doubt, saying, "Listen, I don't know why she's doing this, but I know of her. You know, she is a stand-up figure in the superhero community." And here Doctor Strange is kind of explaining the origin of the Valkyrie to the Thing. And I should actually call him Ben Grimm rather than the Thing. When he's fighting, he's the Thing. But when he's kind of thinking things out, he's Ben Grimm. So he's going to be Ben Grimm at this point. So Doctor Strange is telling Ben Grimm about the origin of the Valkyrie and how her personality is fused with this body that is not truly her own. Now this plays into the story because the Thing knows nothing about the Valkyrie. And he learns about her in the story through osmosis. So the thing is, people are talking about her, and she's kind of taking it, and Ben Grimm is taking in this information. And it does work its way into the end of the story, where it kind of got very emotional. It's because Ben Grimm did develop a close relationship with the Valkyrie, or Val. So anyway, Doctor Strange, he's explained this. He knows the Thing is still a little confused about what's going on, but he's saying, listen, why don't you go to Vermont and kind of pick Val up, and then we can kind of sort things out from there. So Ben Grimm, he goes into one of the Fantastic Four cars, the Fantastic cars, I don't know what they call them. And he's going off to Vermont. He's saying, the Thing doesn't know exactly what's going on, but he trusts Doctor Strange that he knows what he's doing, and he'll just do his part and then kind of not worry about the rest. Doctor Strange here, he's thinking to himself, the forces of destiny are involved here. And he knows this is serious, and he also knows that Alan Denton is involved in this. Doctor Strange doesn't know who Alan Denton is, other than that's the guy who keeps asking him for spare change. So, but nevertheless, Doctor Strange has to kind of contemplate this thing. Then we go to Ben Grimm. And Ben Grimm, I think at this point, is in Vermont. And he's saying, why am I doing this? Why am I involved with this? I'm traveling all the way to Vermont, not to get some sweet maple syrup, but to get a harmonica. And he's also there to get a hot chick, too. And but nevertheless, Ben Grimm's kind of thinking about the Defenders, and they're kind of a bunch of weirdos. Anyway, Ben Grimm actually doesn't really know where the place is exactly, other than it's in the state of Vermont. And he's thinking about almost kind of turning back and going back to Doctor Strange. But he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to, he can't, he doesn't have a cell phone, so he's thinking that he might have to fly back. But then he realizes how embarrassing that is. And Doctor Strange is going to look at him like a moron. So he realizes Ben Grimm realizes that he's gonna fly into a gas station here and simply ask for directions. And Ben Grimm, he notices that there's one employee. The employee looks to be sound asleep. His cap is over his eyes. He wakes the guy up because he does need these instructions kind of quickly. And the gas attendant, I should say, he belts Ben Thing, sends him flying through the glass here. Ben Grimm, he's obviously surprised by this, and he notices that the gas station attendant is holding a very large mace in his hand that he's going to strike Ben Grimm with. You know, there was one thing I should have added. Let's see if I can find them. Yeah. There's no Marvel checklist in this issue. So the upcoming comics are actually printed on the bottom of some of the pages. See one, Kazar, a living sacrifice to the terrible river gods, now on sale. And I think there was one other I had passed. Let me take a look at the comic. And this is Frankenstein, Man-Thing, and the Wild-Eyed Wendigo, all in Monsters Unleashed. Okay, so I'm kind of up to date there. Some more ads, Selling Grit magazine, newspaper. I think that was sort of like a Reader's Digest thing. And here's another one for I'll Make You a Master of Karate. More ads here. This is for the big drafting board. I guess this is an architect school that does this correspondence. I don't know if I want to be in a building designed by an architect who learned from correspondence course. And here, there's kind of like this weird scientific mail order business. This might have been the only month I've ever seen this ad here. Some of this stuff is really pricey, though. Get a feedback monitor for $128. They have some other stuff for like $49. This is $1975. Wow. I guess these are just scientific little gadgets. So anyway, we go back to the story. We see that the gas station attendant, he swings the mace. The thing, because he's in battle now. He barely rolls out of the way. He doesn't really understand what's going on. He's not questioning this guy being super strong or anything. He's just saying, hey, normally gas station attendants don't act this way. And I should know because my dad was one. Nah, just kidding. So anyway, the only thing about the art in the last few panels is that the proportions are slightly off. And we see the thing, he's striking back, and the cap that was covering the gas station attendant's head is knocked off. And we can see it's the executioner. The executioner is a longtime foe of Thor. I think they became friends toward the end. I'm not sure. But at this point, he was definitely a bad guy. He was usually teamed up with the Enchantress, so it was sort of a team thing with those two, and very rarely would one appear and the other didn't. The thing, he's kind of noting his looks here, saying, "Listen, hey, Thor is a good-looking guy. He's from Asgard. That Ballard guy, hey, kind of good-looking guy too. You ain't good-looking. You are not Asgardian looking. On an Asgardian scale, I would put you at maybe a 1 or a 2. Maybe 3. I'll put Loki at 1. So anyway, the Thing's not impressed with his looks. Executioners say, well, dude, come on, really. But he's ignoring that. The Thing is pointing out the Executioner's speech pattern. And it was sort of this weird Elizabethan dialogue. I mean, these are Norse gods, but they're talking kind of like, Queen Elizabeth's English. And nevertheless, the executioner is pissed off. He's already talking about dramas going on. And apparently there's something going on that the executioner doesn't want any superpowered individuals interfering with. And the Thing is obviously a little confused by this because he knows that it involves Doctor Strange. But since he doesn't have the full story, He's kind of a little confused. But nevertheless, there's nothing confused about this right hand he's about to deliver. But the thing is, he's immediately struck from behind. And we see the thing has been knocked out unconscious. And we're also told that the bottom is the Human Torch meets Iron Man in Marvel Team Up number 29. Yeah, they tried to offshoot the Human Torch into his own series, and it just didn't work for him. I don't want to. Okay, so we go back to the story. Turns out that it's the Enchantress. It's the Enchantress who had attacked the thing from behind. But she's a little surprised that he wasn't murked, because she was going for the kill with that shot. And apparently he's still breathing. So the Enchantress is like, hey, not a problem. This next blast will take care of it. This is why mobsters, when they whack you, it's like two in the back of the head. But the Enchantress, who apparently has watched her Sopranos and knows it takes 2 shots sometimes to kill someone, doesn't work this time. Her power beam is deflected as she was about to strike the unconscious thing here. And the Enchantress knows enough to know that Destiny has plans for Ben Grimm. And because Destiny has plans for Ben Grimm, that means that's going to override anyone else's plans, and that includes the Enchantress. So the Enchantress can't kill Ben Grimm yet. But nevertheless, she's going to try to keep him out of the way as much as possible. So while he's unconscious, she holds Ben Grimm and Alan Denton and the harmonica together, right here in the gas station. And also the Enchantress, at this point, she admits that she was impersonating the Valkyrie. So when the Valkyrie was reported as going into Doctor Strange's mansion to take the harmonica, it was really the Enchantress. And the Enchantress also was the one who grabbed Alan Dent. I think the plan was that she didn't want her presence to be known by Doctor Strange. So they sort of went through that elaborate hoax. We see another ad. There were a lot of ads around this time because the accountants made a mistake, and they told the comic book companies that it's really the ads that are making money, not actual sales. And Stanley kind of just took this advice, and they said, listen, okay, we'll have fewer pages for content, and we'll have more pages for ads. And eventually it was Jim Shooter who had stopped this, because he was like, hey, this doesn't sound right. And when they ordered the books, there was a mistake. And that expenses that should have been debited to advertising, because you have to pay for the paper and the inks to put these ads here, they were actually losing money by doing that. And then eventually I think they added 5 more pages of content. But yeah, this is questionable time. Lots of ads. We see the Cartman-like robot here in the corner. Okay, again, more ads. None of them really kind of stand out in any way. Okay, gonna go back to the story. We see that the Enchantress has the harmonica in her hand. And Alan Denton and Ben Grimm, they're in stasis at this point. And it looks like so far the Enchantress and the Executioner, whatever they have cooked up with this harmonica, it looks like they're in a good place right now. And then the Enchantress does something that confuses the Executioner, is that he basically lets both their prisoners go. The Executioner doesn't understand this. But the enchantress is explaining to him, listen, um, destiny wants these two, not us. So we're going to leave it to destiny. Now, we're going to change destiny. But right now, we're not at that point where we can do that yet. So the enchantress is kind of just, she kind of has a good grasp of the game here. And then the two of them, they kind of teleport out of the situation. And the thing is, the gas station that was there actually was another creation of the enchantress. Okay, so on the bottom of the page, Marvel is telling us, don't be lazy, buy crazy. That was their terrible humor magazine. So then both Ben Grimm and Alan Denton, they're in the Vermont wilderness at this point, and they're both unconscious. However, Ben Grimm, he wakes up. He doesn't quite understand what's happening. Very well drawn. I also should say that Sal Buscema really drew the enchantress really beautifully. However, Ben Grimm sees the tied up Harvey Denton, and he goes over to him. It appears that he's conscious at this point. Alan Denton, I said Harvey, I think it was Alan. Alan Denton is telling the thing, hey, I kind of know you somewhat when I wasn't really that drunk. But then he's startled, Alan Denton. He sees the mental projection of Doctor Strange. So this is sort of when Doctor Strange is out of his body, and you see a spiritual essence of him. And it turns out that Doctor Strange is kind of filling in what's going on with Harvey Denton, Alan Denton, I should say. And like the Enchantress, Doctor Strange, he knows this game. But the thing is, the Enchantress and Doctor Strange are looking at it from different angles. But nevertheless, they both know that they're needed to stop both the Enchantress and the Executioner. However, Doctor Strange is saying, listen, if you can't handle these two, maybe you should just come back to New York. And I'm not sure why he's making this suggestion. Is Doctor Strange saying, listen, why don't you come back to New York, pick me up, and then, fly me back? I would think it would be easier for Doctor Strange to kind of get a ride, because he can fly and transport himself. But nevertheless, Doctor Strange, he's out of the story at this point. This is sort of the convenient out that he kind of needs to travel. I don't know whether he's going to Greyhound it or not. No. So anyway, but Ben Grimm, he agrees with Doctor Strange. He says, listen, let's get into the Fantastic Car and we'll head back to the Big Apple and we'll listen to what Doctor Strange has to say. However, it's Alan Denton who says, no, take me back. We got to stay here in Vermont. And again, because Ben Grimm doesn't quite fully understand about what's going on, he says, hey, I might as well listen to this guy. He's not going to ask me for spare change, so I'll just hear what he has to say. And Alan Denton is explaining that the Valkyrie is his daughter, and it sounds a little strange to him. So anyway, Ben Grimm decides he's going to stay in Vermont. And both him and Harvey Denton, they're in the Fantastic Car. They're both flying. Doctor Strange's ghostly appearance, I don't know what other word to use, shows up. And he's admonishing Ben Grimm for not flying to New York. Dr. Strange is looking at those ticket prices saying, listen, it's a whole lot cheaper if Ben Grimm came and picked me up. But the thing is that Ben Grimm's kind of feeling a bit uneasy about this because on one hand, he's obviously in danger. He's obviously involved in this very important situation, but at the same time, he doesn't fully understand it. So it's kind of ticking him off. He's sort of making moves based on assumptions. I'm assuming Doctor Strange is a good guy and he knows what he's doing, so I'm going to do this. I'm assuming that so and so might know what they're talking about. And he's starting to question that now because he's sort of being treated like a dog where he's just doing tricks at this point. But he's thinking, hey, but the old guy is saying, listen, my daughter is here. She might be in trouble, and we should take care of that. Um, Doctor Strange, he says, listen, okay, this might be destiny being involved here, so I'll cut you some slack. I'll overlook, you making me pay to get to Vermont. And Doctor Strange leaves at this point. I think this is at the point Doctor Strange doesn't really show up anymore. Then we see Alan Denton. He's talking about his life, basically that he was a very high status, high profile lawyer, very successful, making lots of money. And then what happened was that his wife was killed in an auto accident. And that's when he sort of fell apart because he found himself, he was the father of a daughter and he didn't have his wife anymore. And he kind of just couldn't handle the situation. He started becoming an alcoholic. Eventually he lost his high status job. He lost his reputation. He lost everything he had. Barbara at that point had married and moved on, so it seemed like she was done with him. And he's kind of saying, yeah, I haven't heard from Barbara ever since she joined those cultists. And 1970s was a big time for cults. And at the bottom of the page, we see the Human Torch, Then and Now. Buy it. I always bought those issues of the Human Torch, and I was always disappointed because I loved the covers, but goddamn, the art and lame stories of those reprints were horrible. Okay, we're still in the story, and Alan Denton has pointed Ben Grimm in the direction of Cobbler's Roost. And as they're flying toward the town, they come across Barbara. Barbara here is, or Val. I should call her Val, actually. She's there. She's still in this beautiful grassy knoll. She's like picking up her luggage. Apparently there are no roads here, and she likes the scenic route. So the thing is, Ben Grimm, he lands the fantastic car. Alan Denton, he immediately tries to rush Barbara. I keep saying Barbara. She's trying to rush Val. He's excited to see her. Val, she sees this homeless guy. She sees him. She smells him. And this homeless guy is coming toward her. She's thinking, I have no spare change. And she turns into the Valkyrie. And she's able to do that. It's kind of lame. The reason is that apparently she always has her sword at her hilt. But when she's in her civilian clothing, it's invisible. And she can just go out in the world and she doesn't have to worry about the sword. But when she pulls the sword out of the hilt, she immediately transforms into the Valkyrie. I think it's kind of a lame device. I think Steve Gerber may have inherited that. So anyway, Alan Denton, he's not scared off by this. Hey, you're an alcoholic, homeless, quote, bum in New York in 1974. You've seen a lot. So he's coming toward her, and he starts to hug her. Valkyrie's horrified. Her eyes are horrified. Her nose is horrified, and she doesn't really understand what's going on. And Ben Grimm is kind of just watching the action here. They do make a passing reference to Defender 17. Defender 17, I think that was the issue where the Valkyrie decided to leave the Defenders and to seek out her human identity, because Barbara Denton and the Valkyrie, they're two different identities. The Valkyrie knows she's kind of renting this body, but she nevertheless feels a need to know at least the body that she's inhabiting. So this is sort of why she had gone on this type of personal quest. And again, this is sort of where the separation of the Silver Age and the Bronze Age is, because Silver Age would not really touch upon subjects like this, and they wouldn't do it as personally as the way Steve Gerber did it. Yeah, I love the Defenders when Gerber was writing it. So we're going to take a look at the letters page. The ever-loving blue-eyed letters page. And the first letter is very complimentary. He thought the previous issue with Doctor Strange was really good. And it was a good issue. Oh no, he's actually talking about number 5. Issue number 5 was the thing in Captain America, and that also had Guardians of the Galaxy. And the writer really liked that issue. And he's saying, listen, we need Gerber doing this comic. We also need more of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, he was ahead of his time, considering how much money those movies had made. Editorial answered back, thanking him for the complimentary letter, but saying that they had some things. They wanted to get done first before, say, moving on to the Guardians having their own comic. And a couple of those things were the return of Warlock. That was when Jim Starlin had taken over the title. And, quote, the any day now return of the X-Men. And other insignificant stuff like that. And that, of course, that was a huge landmark when the new X-Men came out. I actually do remember buying the giant size number 1 off the newsstand. They're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember that issue of the thing. It was a good issue, though the adventure was a little abrupt. And Yondu, yeah, just kind of a few things about Guardians of the Galaxy. And underneath is their subscription service. We see previous issues of Marvel Comics. I remember Spider-Man 140. I bought that off the newsstand too. And there was a really nice poster here you'd get. Oh, the letters continue to the next page. So anyway, again, they're answering his questions and they're giving him lots of information. Okay, the second letter is what had happened is that in Marvel 2-in-1 number 5, they had told the readers that it was going to be The Thing and Thor. But then it turned out to be The Thing and Doctor Strange. And the reader is asking about why that happened. And he's also asking about Major Vance Asteroid, who's a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, saying that if he can't take off that suit that's keeping his body together, how does he go to the bathroom? How does he eat? How does he digest? And the answer to the first question was that they had slated Thor to be in Marvel Team Up number 6, but the thing is that they sort of had used Thor as a guest star in another title. And the thing is, Marvel would actually space how many times a guest star would appear in their comics. So I think they didn't want to use the Thing too early or too often. So they moved it they moved the Thor appearance to, I think, issue 8, and then they used the Doctor Strange one in 6. So I think this might have been destined to be number 9. I forgot the numbers. Anyway, we see another letter. Oh, the other letter about Vance Astro. They're saying, listen, dude, seriously, don't worry about his bodily functions. And we see another reader is asking for a Thing and Howard the Duck team up. I don't know if that team up did happen. There was that great team up with Spider-Man in the first issue, and then the Defenders in the Treasury issue. Okay, so, and we see the Marvel value stamp is Mantis here, in that kind of classic image. And then there's a new humor magazine comic book coming out called Arg. Yeah, I had this issue. The humor was non-existent, but the art by Marie Severance was really good. Take a look at some product merchandise here. These are toys. Spider-Man has his stunt cycle. He also has his Spider-Mobile. And, oh man, the Jerry Conway hated that Spider-Mobile thing. I think Ross Andrew did too. And in issue number 130, where they introduced it, the two toy salesmen who sold Spider-Man on this idea, they looked exactly like Stan Lee and Roy Thomas. And we see the Spider-Man foam thing. I used to make my mom buy this. It was just basically shaving cream. And then we see some of the Mego toys. And try to get back to the story. Okay, so anyway, Valkyrie is being hugged by Harvey Dent. Valkyrie's like, hold it, who are you to grope me? And she doesn't understand why he's calling her Barbara. Now she knows the name of the body she's hosting, but she kind of like doesn't understand how, Mr. Spare Change would know of Barbara. Then he says to her, listen, you're my daughter. And he's surprised that she doesn't recognize him. She hears this and she's taken by surprise that, so this is kind of a shock to the two of them. But then another element introduces themselves into this drama, and it turns out to be the Enchantress and the Executioner. So apparently, again, the Enchantress, I should say, she realizes, hey, Alan Denton, the Valkyrie, Ben Grimm, they're all together. So this is sort of the point where, destiny is converging. And this is the point where the Enchantress and the Executioner make themselves known to them. Now, Ben Grimm had already fought the Executioner, and I think he knows of the Enchantress. Or at the very least, he knows that if she's associating with him and doing the talking, she's a problem too. And Valkyrie is talking smack about the Enchantress and the Executioner. Ben Grimm is taking this all in. So he's, again, as the drama with the Valkyrie is going on, Ben Grimm is watching all this. So he's watching it very carefully. And he knows, and Ben Grimm knows that the Valkyrie is on his side. One, because Doctor Strange spoke up for her. And two, he can just tell from the situation that those two they're gonna have a showdown. The Enchantress, she strikes first. She immediately blasts Valkyrie. When the Enchantress created the Valkyrie persona, there was one thing that she had put into that persona, in that persona could not strike another woman. This is protection, obviously, for the Enchantress. But the thing is that, um, well, the Valkyrie really can't go up against the Enchantress. The Enchantress can attack Valkyrie. And it turns out that the Enchantress, with her blast, she reverses the process and she removes the Valkyrie persona from the body. And we see that Barbara Denton, her consciousness is back inhabiting that body. And of course, at this point, she was in a catonic state of madness. So she's just kind of screaming and just sort of just basically no longer a functioning person. She was traumatized to that point. She's called the Mad Woman. So anyway, Enchantress and the Executioner, they're taking a lot of pleasure in this. The Enchantress has this really evil smile, really smug and full of herself at this point. The Executioner has this kind of, he's grinning too, but kind of like in a dim-witted, dull-witted guy. Imagine the guy who enjoys like torturing animals. Yeah, he kind of has that look here. So he's like, that's a good one. And the Enchantress is basically saying, listen, what I given her, I can take away. And she's saying, listen, I didn't do anything to her directly. This is the state I found her in. And they're telling us here to look at Defenders number 3 for more details. There actually are other podcasts that have covered Defenders 3 because the Defenders have a lot of fans out there. And I think Defenders Dialogue and Tighten Up the Defense would be the two best. And we're told at the bottom, would you believe? Man-Thing versus Blackbeard the Pirate. That doesn't make me want to read it. So anyway, right now the Enchantress, she's on top. She has the harmonica. She's saying this is the moment where they can change destiny. Where, destiny, this current destiny, they maxed out at this point. And if I blow into this magic harmonica, I can change destiny and make the world and make the universe whatever I want. But just before this, the Enchantress is about to blow into the harmonica. Alan Denton grabs the harmonica and snatches it away from the Enchantress. Now, hold it. If you think this guy, homeless guy, hard times, he's probably good at snatching things. And so he goes into full 5-finger discount mode here, and he grabs that harmonica, and then he kind of blows into it. Now, he's blowing into it thinking that he could fix his daughter. So he sort of at least has an intuitive idea that this harmonica can do something magical. So he thinks he can do it that way, just use the magic of the harmonica. The Enchantress, she's horrified by this, but she can't say anything. Alan Denton, he blows into the harmonica, and then all of reality is basically destroyed in the flip of in the note of a harmonica. And we're told here in one of the dialogue boxes, for Alan was destined to die a drunkard. Kind of rubbing it in there, Steve. And so anyway, basically the entire world has been destroyed. And go to the next page. And we see more ads. None of them are terribly interesting. Although there is one here. Imported birds for hunting. It is horrifying the number of living creatures that were mailed to people. And I think included monkeys at one time. And Yeah, just some more ads. Too many of them. So anyway, it turns out that the only people who have survived this event are the five who were in the immediate area of the occurrence. And they're all shocked by what happened here because they weren't expecting this. And and then it turns out the um, Enchantress is the one who knows the most about the situation. She knows that, listen, this isn't all lost. We can still grab that harmonica. And if we grab that harmonica, then I can blow into it, and recreate the world, in the image she wants. So right now, the Enchantress and the Executioner, they do have a plan, and that is to get the harmonica from Alan Denton. Now, one of the things that the Enchantress does is that she converts Barbara back into the Valkyrie. So the Valkyrie persona has returned. She does this for a couple of reasons. One mostly is to sort of earn the trust of Alan Denton. Alan Denton has the harmonica, and she might not be able to take it from him. And so she's counting on him to give it to her. And by changing his daughter back into the Valkyrie, at least, he can say, hey, listen, look what I did for you. Now, the Enchantress is saying that he should blow into the harmonica so he can recreate the world. Or at least, maybe it would be recreated in the Enchantress's image that way. But then Alan Denton, he notices he's having a sharp pain in his chest here. And then he drops the harmonica, which is exactly what the Enchantress and Executioner want. Because now they don't have to make a deal with him. They can just directly do things. So the Executioner, he drops down and he tries to intercept the harmonica. The thing sees this, and he flies because they're floating. He's able to sort of launch himself, and he goes after the Executioner. So the Executioner is going for the harmonica. The thing is going for the Executioner. The harmonica drops on some of the debris that is left of the earth, and it's within the Executioner's grasp. However, the thing doesn't allow the Executioner to grab it because he knows the importance of it. It doesn't need to be explained to him at this point. And he's battling it out with the Executioner. Really well-drawn panels here. And the thing is kind of going through some dialogue here, kind of informing the viewer. He knows what the Enchantress and Executioner are up to. He says, listen, I know you're going to recreate the world. I kind of like some of the people on that world, and I have a feeling that those people might not be there under your reworking of the earth. The Enchantress confirms this, saying, listen, yeah, we'll recreate the world, but we're going to do it in a way that there are no superpowered beings. There's going to be no obstacles in our way, because we want to rule both Earth and Asgard. And then we see the Enchantress, and once again, she's bailing out the Executioner here by attacking the thing from behind. The thing, he asked Valkyrie for help here, because, it's 2 against 1. Valkyrie, obviously, yeah, she knows that she needs to get involved in this fray. But again, she has that restriction where she can't strike a woman. And then we go into Marvel Bullpen Bulletins. Okay, so the Valkyrie is about to go into action. That's where we left off. Going to take a look at Stan's soapbox. They're talking about a comic book convention. This is when they started becoming really popular. Apparently, yeah, a lot of the fans gave the Marvel people a big cheer. And then Stan's talking about the origins of Marvel Comics. that had just came out and how well it's doing. And he's also talking about a Spider-Man movie. Apparently, there was supposed to be an upcoming Spider-Man movie around this time, and that didn't. They also mentioned the Electric Company being on. They're going to show those Spider-Mans. Those Spider-Man appearing on the Electric Company, I think, was the first time Spider-Man appeared in live-action media. So yeah, things are looking good for Stan at this point. Then we take a look some of the items. The Marvel softball team, they lost to the Village Voice. That was a very famous newspaper in New York. And another item, talking about some of the comics coming out, they're talking about Iron Fist. And they're talking about Man Gods from Beyond the Stars. We see a little advertisement for that. That was one of their big, I think that was one of their magazines. So again, they wanted the kids to buy higher priced items. Talking about Len Wein here, and how he's going to be working on the Fantastic Four and the Hulk. And yeah, it looks like they're about to give Len more office duties. And another item, they mentioned Jim Starlin and his work with the Defenders. Yeah, I think that was one of the few non-Sal Buscema Gerber issues. And they're talking about this issue of Marvel 2-in-1. And they're also talking about their comic book distribution, I should say, because apparently some of the kids are saying they're having a hard time finding these magazines. And Marvel's trying to be as helpful as possible, saying, hey, kid, really look hard because we need you to buy them. Okay. So we go back to the story. Valkyrie does strike, but she strikes at the executioner. Since she can't deal with the Enchantress, she can deal with the executioner. The Thing is a little surprised by this because he's saying, listen, I could have handled this guy. We're being a little redundant here with our efforts. But nevertheless, the Thing doesn't know about the Valkyrie's restrictions. And then we see the Enchantress. She's about to strike the Thing again from behind. However, it looks like the Thing turns around. But nevertheless, the Enchantress has balls. She has balls. And she's blasting the Thing here. And she is letting the Thing know about the Valkyrie not being able to strike a woman. And she's gloating, hey, this hot chick is going to be your banker. Just like that scene from Superman from '78, R.I.P. Gene Hackman. And anyway, the Thing is really taking it here at this point. He's just getting blasted straight up. However, the Thing finds strength. He finds inner strength to carry on. He knows, obviously, the stakes already at hand. But he's also making this personal because the Thing noticed how much pleasure the Enchantress got by screwing with the Valkyrie, by fusing the personality, by that restriction she can't strike a woman, and then kind of the Enchantress kind of rubbing her nose into it with the Valkyrie, then changing her back into Barbara Denton, changing her back to Valkyrie, just being a kind of a biatch toward the Valkyrie. And the Thing doesn't like this, and he doesn't like the fact that she's just so cavalier with her attitude toward screwing around with this person's head, because he has a good sense that the Valkyrie is a good person, but she has issues. The Enchantress can't believe that her power blasts aren't working. The Thing, he still doesn't want to hit a woman. He does have to hit her, but he does it in kind of like the softest pimp slap he can deliver. And he's saying, "Listen, lady, you know, destiny's not protecting me. I'm just kind of a stubborn guy here." So anyway, it leaves the issue of bringing back the Earth, bringing back their reality, and it's up to Ben Grimm, because the battle's over, to do this. And he blows into the harmonica, wanting to return things as they were. Ben Grimm's probably the most even minded guy of the group, so he's not going to try to fiddle with things. He's going to say, listen, we'll return the world as it was, and then from that point on, we'll work on solving things. So, he's a little melancholy here because he doesn't know whether this will work or not. And everything's in his hands. So then the world is recreated once again. So at this point, everyone is basically a replicated version of themselves. It's like that movie Mickey 17, which sadly wasn't that good a movie. Parasite was a good movie, but not Mickey 17, same director. But in Mickey 17, they would just print out a new Mickey every time the old Mickey died. So Steve Gerber kind of Mickey 17 the entire world, except for the five principles. The Executioner and Valkyrie, they're still going at it. Valkyrie has the Thing's respect because he knows how strong she is. She knows how tough she is. But nevertheless, she's having a problem with this larger foe. And then the Thing comes in and he smashes the Executioner. This is one of the stock images or figures, I don't know what word to use, poses that Sal Buscema would use. And he's kind of flying toward the reader. And that's it. Both the Enchantress and Executioner will probably be unconscious for a little while. It leaves Ben Grimm and Valkyrie to kind of see where things are at this point. And it turns out that during that phase, that battle, Alan Denton had a massive heart attack and he died. And Valkyrie is quite broken up over this because she says, "He is dead. The one man who could have told me all about Barbara, her childhood, her likes and dislikes, her bonds with other humans, all the factors which made her a person, and without which I am but an empty facade, a fiction." And then we see, and I'm getting a little emotional, Ben Grimm kind of hugs Valkyrie, saying, "Listen, if you really were a facade, you wouldn't be crying on my shoulder now." And he says, only us real people got that problem. So it has like this very emotional ending here. I think the gummies make me a little emotional. Nevertheless, it ends on this note, and this is a great story. And then we're told that, quote, Valkyrie's search for herself continues in Defenders number 20, on sale next month. So kind of enjoyed the thing. They want the Defenders to sell more comic books, so they figured, okay, we'll bring in the Thing, and then maybe we'll get some of those Fantastic Four fans to buy into the Defenders too. And it also tells us that that Marvel 2-in-1 number 8 is going to be the Ghost Rider. Okay, and then see a full page ad, in-house ad for Marvel Treasury Edition number 2, The Fabulous Fantastic Four. Number 1 obviously was Spider-Man. So this is sort of some reprints of some of their great stories. I love these treasury editions, but I had mentioned another podcast that they didn't really sell that well. Okay, and we see an ad for Evil Knievel and his toy. I had this. I think this is I got this as a Christmas present, and that's it. And that's my review of Marvel 2-in-1 issue number 7. And I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.